Racial tensions in America have been high over the past few weeks, and instead of saying things to help calm the country, President Obama is only stirring things up. Listen to this new remark.
When you're dealing with something as deeply rooted as racism or bias in any society, you got to have vigilance, but you have to recognize that it's going to take some time.
So he thinks America is deeply rooted in racism, but he's doing nothing to help. According to a new poll, the majority of Americans say race relations have gotten worse since Obama took office. One person who's not a fan of the president's race rhetoric, Rush Limbaugh.
We've made all kinds of efforts to improve race relations in this country. The 1964 Civil Rights Act, affirmative action, we have bent over backwards. Is it all perfect? No, it's not. But there's no acknowledgement of any of the progress, Chris. If you listen to these people, the president, the mayor of New York, you would think it's 200 years ago. And that's tearing this country apart. We have people to whom the truth is relative. The president taking sides in this in a way that further divides the country, I find reprehensible and very unfortunate.
So, Kimberly, Obama's racial track record here, how much responsibility do you think he has? He got off kind of on the wrong foot with Americans. He called half of white America bitter clingers. He had the Reverend Wright controversy right out of the gate. He sided against the cop in Cambridge. How much responsibility does the president have?
Into guns and religion. Look, he's got not just the responsibility, but I mean, it's incumbent upon him as the leader of the free world, the president of the United States, the commander-in-chief, to help instill order, to put confidence in the American people about this country and about all the accomplishments. What a unique opportunity in history this president had. And how did he blow it? Yeah. Because all he's done with, and I really feel strongly about this, with Eric Holder, is poke the cage to say Americans are racist, cops are racist, we're not doing a good enough job. I mean, look at the problem in Ferguson. That really could have been, maybe not completely prevented, but made not as bad as it ultimately ended up being. And here in the problem in New York, and now we see riots in Berkeley, to try and say, let's try and come together. Let's focus on the positives and the accomplishments, how much we have done in this country to have understandings like the civil rights movement that Bob talks about.
Right, and Bob, we talk about the civil rights movement. Republicans are afraid to say anything critical of the president because they're going to get smeared as a racist, a Klansman, this or that. Do you understand why Republicans and a lot of white America doesn't like to talk about race?
Sure, yeah, I understand that, but let's keep something in mind. As usual, we selectively edited what Obama said here. We took out, as you noticed, there was a clip there before he was about to say, but race relations have gotten much better in America in the last 50 years, but our producers chose to take that out. He had said about Ferguson that he asked people to not riot, that it was doing no good. It was only hurting those people who had black-owned establishments. He has come out and said many, many things, and one thing he has never said is that Americans are racist.
Well, you know, one of the things that he has done, and he surrounded himself with a lot of really strange individuals. Listen to what Deneen Borelli said about Obama's racial leadership earlier on Fox News Channel.
I can't tell you how outraged I am with President Obama and these so-called black leaders who are whipping up emotions across the country when it comes to race. Look at the representation of black Americans in corporate America, entertainment, sports, politics. Obama is in a unique position. He could have united our country, but unfortunately, he has made matters worse.
And Eric, do you agree with that? He surrounded himself with Sharpton and Holder and Van Jones, these types of bomb throwers.
Yeah, well, we know Al Sharpton has visited the White House a bunch of times, and I think that's President Obama's fault in this, not necessarily what he's saying, but who he's associating himself with. Al Sharpton literally said he was going to be involved in picking the next attorney general in between when Eric Holder announced that he was leaving. I mean, that's ridiculous. The real black leaders in America aren't Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson or the new Black Panther Party. The real black leaders are the thousands or more black pastors and ministers across the country. They're the ones who go to the pulpit every Sunday and talk. Those are the people that President Obama should be surrounding himself. Those are the people we should be putting on the Fox News channel and talking to them, because those are the ones who are tapping into what the general population thinks. Al Sharpton is losing his luster. The more he goes on and the more he continues to race bait and continue the rhetoric, black people are starting to say, okay, that's not helpful. The family in Ferguson said, Al Sharpton, you're not helpful anymore. Bill de Blasio, using his son, saying, my son of color, I worry about him with the NYPD, that doesn't help race relations in New York City. the politicians and the race baiters who are using these events to make their point, they're not representing the vast majority of black people anymore. We need to really expose what true black people in America are thinking, not Al Sharpton or de Blasio or the other bozos.
That's a good point, and a lot of this is politics, isn't it, Dana? You have the president trying to rally the base. He wants to turn out black voters. You know, he doesn't always pay great lip service to white middle-class values, and that may win elections, but it's hard to govern that way when you're dividing and conquering, right?
I try to put myself in his shoes, and obviously that's difficult for me to do, and it would be hard for him to put himself in my shoes at a 5.5 size shoe. I don't think race relations are as bad as maybe it feels to some people. However, it is hard to argue with that poll. The numbers show that 53% of Americans think race relations are worse today than they were before. And that is something I think that if I were in the White House, I'd be thinking, okay, we've got 2 years to try to turn that poll around and to get those numbers back to where we would like them to be. And I think that they've got opportunities to do that. I just don't know if they're going to take them.
Well, the point is that those polls were taken in the aftermath of Ferguson and what happened in Staten Island. So I would imagine that people do think race relations are worse. I think Obama did have an opportunity and did not take it. But one of these days, we're going to keep in mind he is not a race baiter. If we would finally have a clip on this network, on our show here, that had the whole of what Obama said about race, we might be better off in putting it in context.
We're not going to play a 10-minute clip on the intro.
Oh, no, we could do something besides pulling out the one nastiest comment he made.
Is it a good idea to entertain Al Sharpton at the White House some 80
Is it a good idea to selectively clip what a president of the United States
It's a yes or no.
Is it clip? No, yes or no. Is it selectively right to clip?
No, listen, the audience can go in the internet and look at it, and it wasn't edited, okay? So next, he was supposed to be eaten alive by an anaconda on national television.